Let's speak to our next guest this morning about education and the importance of that here in the Show Me State. She is Elizabeth Roberts, Communications Director of the Herzog Foundation. You can find them at herzogfoundation.com. Elizabeth, good morning. Welcome to KWTO. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you.
Absolutely. Elizabeth, before we get into maybe some of the issues of the day around education, can you tell our audience a little bit about the Herzog Foundation? What is the Herzog Foundation? What is its mission? What is its purpose?
Absolutely. So here at the Herzog Foundation, we are on a mission to advance Christian education and make it more accessible to kids nationwide. And you really can't tell the story of the Herzog Foundation without first talking a little bit about our founder, Stan Herzog, who you were probably familiar with Stan, Tim, because of your time in Missouri politics. He was a very successful businessman here in Northwest Missouri. He was a true conservative. He believed in faith and family values, and he believed in these values so strongly that when he passed away unexpectedly in 2019, he left his wealth to our foundation to advance Christian education. So we're using that money that Stan left us to support existing Christian schools. Actually, right now, as we speak, the Herzog Foundation is down in Dallas, Texas, training Christian schools and how to fundraise more effectively. But we're not just helping Christian schools here at the Herzog Foundation. We also want to help individuals who are interested in starting their own schools, help those individuals start brand new Christian schools as well. So we just want to make sure that as many kids that want a Christian education, that they have that opportunity available to them. So that's a little bit about what we do here.
Very good. And Elizabeth, it's so important, I think, as we're seeing all across the country and even here in Springfield with some of the issues that Springfield public schools have had to wrestle with, whether or not they are implementing a critical race theory curriculum or not. It really should be, despite what some folks have said, it really should be up to parents to determine what is the best path for their kids to pursue in the realm of education, shouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. We need to start listening to parents. Their voices matter. They should be the ones that have a say in these issues like critical race theory, just like you said. And what we found here at the Herzog Foundation, we actually did a nationwide survey where we asked parents, both parents that already have their kids in Christian schools and parents that have their kids in public schools. We asked them, do you want critical race theory taught to your children? And overwhelmingly, over 70% of parents said they don't want those things taught in their schools. So it's really time to start listening to the parents and what they want for their children.
And Elizabeth, this has nothing to do with teaching actual history, right? I think so many parents all over the political spectrum, and especially those on the center right side of the world, they would like their kids to learn the history of the United States of America. It's good and it's bad, right? Because we need to learn the lessons of the past so we don't repeat the bad stages ever again. But critical race theory, in my understanding, is it's not a teaching of history. It's a teaching of ideology. Isn't that right?
Right. You are absolutely right, Tim. And some people will even try and argue with you that CRT isn't actually being taught in public schools. But I would just ask those people, have you actually paid attention to what your kids are being taught? When was the last time you opened up one of their textbooks or listened in on a lesson that their teacher was giving to them? And I think one of the beauties of COVID was that parents' eyes really were open because kids were learning virtually with parental supervision. And these parents could not believe what was actually being taught to their children. We've heard from parents that even subjects like math that should be pretty straightforward, that math textbooks are becoming political. So just listen closely to what your kids are being taught and pay attention to these things, because you will see this ideology seeping in everywhere in every subject in public schools.
Speaking to Elizabeth Roberts, Communications Director for the Herzog Foundation, herzogfoundation.com. Elizabeth, why should parents consider choosing a Christian-based education for their children?
You know, Tim, there are so many reasons. I think just some of the craziness we're seeing right now in public schools is one of the many reasons. But I would tell parents, if you want your kid to receive an education where they have freedom, the freedom to pray every day, the freedom to have their values lifted up and supported and not torn down, then consider a Christian education for your children. And at the Herzog Foundation, We have so many resources available to parents. If you are even thinking about a Christian education for your kids, please visit herzogfoundation.com. That's HERZOG Foundation.com, and we are here to help you.
And I imagine that the Herzog Foundation welcomes people of all denominations and faiths, right? Whether you're a religious person or not.
Yes, that is absolutely right, Tim. Any denomination. If you are a Christian and you want to send your kids to Christian school, whether it's Catholic or Baptist or non-denominational, we are here to support you.
And Elizabeth, I think we're finally seeing, after fighting these battles for almost 2 decades now. I was part of that battle when I was during my time in the legislature. I continue to stay involved in this fight now. We're finally seeing some advancement in the state of Missouri, with legislators realizing that this is what parents want. And I'm talking about choice in education. We passed an education savings account bill last year. The legislature did, finally, after trying so hard. And this is with a supermajority Republican legislature. Elizabeth, I think it's really time for our legislative supermajority, and I'm speaking directly to the Republicans now. I mean, it'd be great if some of the Democrats would come along too, but Republicans have largely stood in the way of putting parents back in charge of their education. And this is something that's, I think, critical in the Republican Party platform. It's a conservative value. It's a Christian value. To make sure that parents have that choice. So I think it's time for voters to start realizing, just because you put an R after your name doesn't necessarily mean that you follow through on some of these basic platform issues, which really I think they transcend party as well.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Education is an issue that really affects all of us, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. And like you said, parents want options. So we need to start listening to parents. For years now, they've been begging for options. Like you said, this legislation has been pending in the Missouri legislature for, I think, over 10 years now, and we finally just got it passed this last year. And I think part of that momentum, probably why it finally passed, is because in some areas of the state, you couldn't find a single public school that was meeting in person. And parents don't want that for their children. They want in-person education. They want options. And so at the Herzog Foundation, we completely agree with that. And we want to help parents and make sure that they have as many options as possible for their children.